Hi, everyone. I am Vicki James of Beyond the Line Books and Thrive Hive, and we are here for Thrive Hive Live 21 Steps to Launching Your Business. And this is week 10, where we're talking about your booking and payment systems. So I have a cool little new video for you here. These are the 21 steps. And right now we are at step 10, booking and payments. So we can kind of see up here, we're building our foundation. They're getting into testing and buildings, our landing page, our email list, and you can kind of get a preview of what's ahead. So thank you to Patrick, who I just see joined in the comments. We were in a conversation, I think, last Friday, and he's like, you know what, we're kind of this picture of what all the 21 steps are and where we are would be really great. I'm like, how did I miss that? Which is just a great example of why the Hive is so important to me, why community is so important to me. I don't remember to do everything myself. I need people around me to offer those great suggestions, and then, yeah, let's do it together. So thank you, Patrick, for that great idea. And that was a preview of our 21 steps. So with that, yeah, today we're talking about your booking and payment systems. And next week, things get really fun. We talk about start selling, but we're going to focus on what really works and not all those things that might be kind of making you nervous about selling. So don't worry, it's going to be a much easier approach than probably what you're thinking, but you'll have to show up next week to get the details on that. All right, I also want to bring up that in the description, there is a bunch of links about Thrive Hive and our sessions here. So you can download the course workbook. You can sign up for a 45-day free trial, learn more about these sessions. And then the new thing I added recently last week was an assessment, where this assessment will show you exactly what you're already prepared for when it comes to building your business, and maybe where some of your knowledge gaps are, for what things you might need a little bit more information and some support in order to get that stood up. So those resources are out there in the description. Hope you'll give them a look. And next thing up on our agenda is community. So Thrive Hive really is all about community. And it starts here. Believe it or not, I didn't know this when I started this 10 weeks ago or 11 weeks ago, but through our comments, we are building community. So please drop in the comments who you are, where you are, what you're building, and you'll hear me ask additional questions as well as we go through the course workbook. Now, I do need to prepare you. From the time I say something to the time your comment shows up is a really long time. So if I can respond to something really late, it's just the lag. There's like a 30-second delay before you hear what I actually said, and another 30-second delay before I see what you really commented. So it makes things interesting, but you know what? It's working out. So I love it. So please keep the comments coming to each other and to me. And I will have a couple questions in here where I'm like kind of dropping hints for things that you can share. All right, so definitely comment to each other, connect with each other as well. So we're building community, and I'd love for you to all stay connected. I think everybody I've seen so far is connected to me, but if there's somebody that hasn't dropped a comment and we're not yet, yeah, please connect. I'd love to hear more about what you're building. All right, with that, let's get started with our course today. And we'll start with our course workbook, which again is available to you. If you go to the description, you'll find a link to go download your book. Yeah. All right. So at this point, last week we talked about getting your email list ready, and for that, your landing page. And so really you're getting at the point now, okay, well, I have an email list. I have a landing page. What's next? And that's to let people book time with you. And I also included payment systems in here because maybe you're ready to start selling some consulting or some assets or something else. And so really looking at how do we get time booked? How do we get payments? And that is what we're talking about today. And I did want to say too, you're probably closer than you think. So some of these things sound kind of, I don't know, far-fetched, which 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, definitely were. But now these are becoming a little bit more mainstream. So getting to being able to have people book time on your calendar and being able to accept payments might be closer than you originally think. And here's a big reason why, because so many tools right now, just looking at the calendar, so many tools have the ability for people to book time with you, from Google, Zoom. So I'd say, Google Workspace, Zoom paid accounts, Microsoft 365, your CRM systems, most of these have some function to schedule time. And so if you're using any of these systems, you're probably good to go. It's just uncovering or discovering how to utilize them. And so one of the questions I have for you, are you using any of these tools? Is this some where you need to look to be, okay, can I have people book time with me through this tool? So go ahead and drop that in a comment. I'm kind of curious, what tools you're out there, and include as well, like, are you using a calendar option now? Is it from one of these tools, or is it something else? So that's another great thing to share as we go. So, before you go investing in a solution, definitely look like, what do I already have available to me, and what's it going to take to get that working? And if you don't have those things, then the good old common Calendly is a great way to go. There's many other low cost or free options out there, and they're all great. So my only caution in looking for what you already have is you might be able to find out, oh, I don't have to spend more money. I have a rich feature available to me. So let's look at that first. And that's how my story went. Like when I first launched Beyond Aligned Books, I went out and I got a Calendly, started using it. But then when I went to HubSpot for my CRM, I quickly learned it's like, oh, there's a scheduler there. And it's really kind of feature rich. There's a lot I can do with this. So I quickly ditched the Calendly, went with HubSpot, and that was the end of that story. Now, we're not talking about CRMs yet. That's a future step, but it's worth calling out that a lot of solutions do have, or I should say providers, have a lot of the solutions that we need. And that's what HubSpot was for me. So once I got HubSpot Starter, which is very low cost and easy to use, I have a scheduler, I have a landing page, I have email campaigns, I have all of these things that I need. But I will caution when it comes to HubSpot in particular, at that starter rate, it's a great cost, but it doesn't come with the automations that really make your engines hum smoothly. So great starter place, but once you need automations, HubSpot becomes a little limiting at that starter plan, which is affordable, and gets to be maybe not affordable pretty quickly. So just throwing that out there. All right. So I did want to share too, when you get these calendar things, how do you make it work? And so typically what will happen is you're like, okay, I want to start using a calendar. And the first thing it says, great, connect your calendar. And that's how it knows, oh, this is when she's busy, this is when she's not. It'll then have you set your available times. So for me, I'm in Spain. My available times are Tuesday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. And so you can customize that any way you need to. It could be by day, by hour. There's other customizations like, how far in advance does somebody need to book? How much, lag time do you need between meetings? So there's a lot of opportunity to customize what that looks like. You'll confirm your time zone, because doing 4 to 8 p.m. in the Pacific time zone would be very bad for me currently. So again, looking into this stuff. And then how long do you want meetings to be? Do you want 30 minutes? Do you want an hour? Do you want 25 minutes? Like you get to set these meetings up in any way that you want. And then there comes the confirmations and reminders. So there'll be some out of the box stuff that works just fine. That's why it's default and out of the box, but you can customize them as well. And so you really have a chance to make these your own as you go. And then, so once you get everything set up, you'll get a link. And my recommendation, go incognito and pop it into your web browser and see what happens. Go through the flow, book time with yourself, double check all the confirmations, and then you'll know, hey, this calendar link is working perfectly. That's what I wanted, and you have people booking with you. All right, and then want to talk about, so once you have that calendar link, what do you do with it? Now, you have a couple options here, and it depends on your approach to working with others. Oftentimes, you'll see where the calendar link is available on a landing page. Like maybe your call to action on that landing page is book time with me, and so you can put your calendar link there. Oftentimes, you can actually embed the calendar into the page, so that's something to look for if you're interested. There's always instructions available with your host provider, with the calendar provider. There's help to get you over to get those integrated, and of course AI as well. Another option may be, we can see in LinkedIn where some people's custom buttons are sometimes book time with me, and so that's a place you can put it. Or maybe you want to gate it a little bit more. Maybe you just don't want any rando out there putting time on your calendar. Then you can say, you know what, it's something for me to keep in my hip pocket. I will send it to who I want to book time with me. And that's appropriate too. And then a hybrid option, which is this is how I originally approached it. Now I actually do have my calendar live, is to say, you know what, send me a contact form. And then once I've confirmed that this is a good time to meet, I will complete the information and pass that on, or pass on my link. And so that would be your hybrid option. So once you have that calendar, you don't have to put it out there for everybody to start booking with you. You can control who gets it and who doesn't. But that also brings me to the spam protection. So when you do, whether you're doing a contact form or your calendar link or any of those things, the providers will have turn on the CAPTCHA option. And so that's the little thing that says, prove to me you're a human. Now, don't be worried. Most of the time, it's no longer the puzzle that nobody can solve kind of CAPTCHA. It's a little bit more integrated now. So you check a box and it's like, oh, yep, we know that's a person. I don't know how it works in the background, but it works. And so you're verifying they are real people that are booking time with you and not bots out there in the universe. So you do want to turn that CAPTCHA on. All right. And so now I'm curious, now that you have these options, okay, my website, I can do, a button on LinkedIn. I can only send it to people who I wanted to. What are you thinking for your calendar link as you have people coming into you? And then if you joined us late, as people are thinking about, where's my calendar link going to go? Just wanted to put it out there again that next week we're talking about sales, but the fun part is it's not like sales that feel icky. It's how to do sales in a way that is supportive, helpful, and really opens up some, great conversation versus some, fear triggers, let's put it that way. So I hope you'll join us next week to learn more about that. All right, so I'm going to move on now to our payment systems. And the main thing I want to really convey with payment systems is that there's more systems than I think we tend to realize, and the price points are all very different. So the main takeaway I hope that you'll come out of this with is I have options on what I use, and I can decide how much I'm willing to pay for convenience and availability and all the rest of that. All right, so, and I'll start with my story. And this is when or last year when I was launching, I started with some digital assets I was selling. And so I found a selling platform called Hive. It's a lot like Gumroad. If you've seen Gumroad, it's the same kind of concept. And so I started selling everything through that. I'm like, great, I have a platform to list my thing. It pays me. I think I did have to put up a Stripe account. The money goes through Stripe, which we'll talk about as well. And when I was just selling like $5, downloadable things, it was fine. But then I put a $500 charge through it and saw how much money he took out of my $500. Remember when you got your first paycheck and you're like, who's FICA? It was kind of like that. It's like, wait a minute, where'd all my money go? And that's when I realized that by using a seller platform combined with a payment platform, I was really giving a lot of my money away. And so I figured out okay, when it comes to receiving payments, let's figure out how to make that a lot more cost effective. So that was an important lesson that I learned, and part of the reason why this is so important to me now. All right. So as far as, so there's a couple of different categories of payment providers. And with any of these, it's going to be the same type of thing where as you start to use the service, then it's going to be, you create the account with the payment provider, you link your bank account, verify your ID, you set up your invoicing or your payment links, all of those kinds of things. And then, you can run a test transaction, make sure everything flows beginning to end. But as far as the providers, I kind of lumped it into three different, options. So the low cost option, we'll start there, is ACH Bank. And so oftentimes if the person will pay you from their bank to your bank, not through a credit card, and they do through an ACH, that's typically about 1%. And that tends to be a really low cost option. And then here's the thing that not a lot of people realize. There are merchant payment providers out there that will support you at a rate lower than you're going to see from this group 2 that I'll talk about next. In fact, I know Janine's on the line, and so she might put more information about her service out there so that you can be like, oh, granted, this middle group that I'll talk about in just a second is usually available out of the box. But, and we'll see this, as you're getting more money, maybe you don't want to give quite as much away. So there's options out there. And so that's one of the other takeaways I would hope that you come away from the session with is I'm not locked into Stripe. I'm not locked into QuickBooks payments. I'm not locked into these things. They're easy, they're accessible, great way to get started, but there are other options. And then, so that middle tier, and that's where I think it's a fine place to start, honestly, because they are integrated. Whatever you're using, let's use the calendars as an example. If you want people to pay in order to book time with you, they probably automatically integrate with Stripe. And so why not get the payment processing there? So they're a good starting platform. I just want to make you aware that as you have bigger ticket items, then you may want to look at other options or as you start earning more money. So let's see what this looks like for real. So the low end group, we have the ACH, and then we have the other merchant providers that you can reach out to and will work with you to get your payments integrated. We have kind of that middle tier, which is your Stripe, your QuickBooks payments, and also like Chase Bank, and you'll have to see what your own bank does, has like invoicing options, and they all tend to run about 3% with small transaction fees on top of it. So you can see in the course workbook, like, well, what's it going to cost if it's a $100 charge versus a $2,000 charge? And then when you start talking the selling platforms, so that was the PayHip example I gave you. Now I'm not just paying the payment processing fee, but I'm paying a seller fee on top of it. And now things start to get kind of expensive. And so, that's what I want to make sure that you're aware of so that as you start getting payments, you know that you don't necessarily have to pay the same tax depending on how you set it up. All right, so then moving on, I looked at the 3 different categories and said, okay, well, if I go with the low cost category, and I'm looking at a year of $50,000 in sales, then at the low cost end, it's only like $625 a year. I can absorb that out of $50,000. For that middle, that standard tier, you're looking at closer to $1,600 a year. It's like, okay, well, it is what it is. But now when you start adding in the selling platforms, with PayHip being an example, now I have almost $4,000 of my $50,000 going to other people. That might be a time that I want to really look at how am I set up and how can I do this differently. And sorry, had a little brain hiccup here. But what I want you to think about is, okay, well, that's 50,000, which if we're in our first, second year of business might be right. It might be low, it might be high. But let's say we're third, fourth, fifth year into business and we're growing and now we're making in excess of 200,000. That's even more money going out the door. So it's something to be aware of so that you can make the right decisions as you're moving forward. Now, one thing you can do, we always have our trusty friend AI to be like, hey, this is how I'm processing payments. This is how much I'm paying. What other options are there out there for me? Or you could do what I did, and I was talking to another payment provider, and I said, well, let me send you an example of what I'm paying and let me know how your rates compare. And he came back with, my rates are slightly lower, but probably not enough to make it worth the headache of changing. And so that's really important to keep in mind too. So we always have so many decisions to make when it comes to starting our businesses. And that's why I wanted to do these 21 steps, because I want you to understand first the decisions that you'll be making as you go, but then also what are the options and how do we explore those options so you can find the right fit for you. And then a final note on this payments. I think it's really important to know what was your revenue versus what was your payment processing fee. Because if you don't know whether you paid $680 in payment fees for the year or $4,000, then it's going to be hard to make the right decision for, am I using the best option to keep things low cost, but still workable for my setup, for my clients, for myself. So awareness is great, and that happens when you keep the bookkeeping, which is a different step, to keep those separate. So many people, and I've seen this in the bookkeeping I do for others, they just take that it's like, oh, okay, well, I got 250, so I guess that was my revenue. But that's not giving you the insight that's really going to help you understand how much money is going out the door. It's not going to give you the same clarity. So just a note there. All right, so I gave those examples, 50,000. But then my question to you be, what if it's 200,000? Are you still wanting to go with those standard options that cost a little bit more? Or is that the point you're going to start reaching out to people like Janine? And I have another resource listed in the book as well, to say, hey, here's another way to get payments that maybe is not going to cost the same. So thank you, Janine, for jumping in and being here, putting a face to the name. So connect with her if you think maybe it's not today, maybe you're not getting payments yet, but you're like, you know what, I want to be really conscious of this. So let me bookmark this when I'm ready to start looking at additional payment options. Or better yet, talk to her before you get started so you don't have to change later, because change always is a little bit of a headache in and of itself. So there you go. All right. And then the next thing I really wanted to talk about is if somebody's booking with you, and the example that I'll use, and this is for myself, when I'm onboarding a new bookkeeping client, like we've done all the prelim, we've done everything else. It's like, great, let's book the appointment so we can get started. I have it set up through HubSpot to where they book the appointment and they pay at the same time. And the reason I do that is so they're not having to go here to do this and there to do that. And frankly, it works out for me as well, because now I know when they book the appointment, they've already paid, like, okay, we're good to go. This is it. They're buttoned in. We're going to do this. And so in thinking about those setups, when it comes to your scheduling, if this is for a paid appointment, getting that payment linked into it. Now, I will say, depending on where your calendar is, that might limit like where some of what your payment options are. And I don't know the answer to this, but for example, it might be if I want to accept payments for somebody setting an appointment on Calendly, that they have to go through Stripe. And I don't know that that's true, but that might be a scenario. And so might be a little bit more limited on what those things are. Which also brings up another great point that when it comes to my own books, I'm not using any one of those solutions. I use QuickBooks payments for things that I invoice. I use Stripe through HubSpot, which HubSpot doesn't put more on top of it. So it's just the Stripe fee for people booking appointments through Stripe. And through Go High Level, I have offers there for Hive. And so everything's coming in through different places, but they're the consistent thing there is they're all that standard tier in the middle. So it's about the same rate, no matter how the money comes in that case. So and my blended rate, I actually looked it up. My blended rate was 2.64. So I'm just right under that, 3% margin that you're looking at for those standard guys. All right, but I did want to just plant the seed that if you're going to be accepting payments for an appointment, then if you can make that kind of one cohesive journey for your user, it's going to make things easier for them. It's going to make things more certain for you and provide an overall experience. And with that, that's about it for most of our curriculum today. So I'll ask if there's any questions. And I'll point out too that there are resources in the book. And so Janine is online with Explore Pay. Feel free to reach out with her. I also included information with Joel and HMF Balling, which is the person who had given me the quote that's like, I could save you a tiny bit of money, but don't bother. Love those kind of responses. Those are the kind of vendors that you want to work with. And I'm sure Janine would do exactly the same if I went through her. So with that, just remind you about the Hive resources out there. So go to the description, find the course workbook. You can take a little bit deeper look at those numbers and be like, there is a difference here. Let me look into this more. Or just follow along with the prompts, as well as the 45-day trial and the assessment. So you can see which of those 21 steps do I need the most help on. In fact, I think I'm going to show that little our little thing here again. There he is. So we're on step 10 now. And next week, we're talking about start selling, but not in a scary way. Because nobody wants to be scared selling or being sold to. So with that, I'd say thank you for joining week 10 of Thrive Hive Live regarding scheduling and payment options. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks.